So today we're going to talk about a really powerful idea from military history, but one that has some serious relevance for what's happening in the world right now. It's a concept that points to this dangerous pattern, one that seems woven into how nations deal with each other, a pattern that has, time and time again, led straight to war.
Okay, so this phrase right here, this is where we begin. It's the motto of the U.S. Army's Combat Studies Institute, and it really captures a core idea that if we look back, if we study the past, we can get a much better handle on the conflicts of today, and maybe, just maybe, figure out how to navigate the challenges of tomorrow. Okay, let's dive in.
To really get a handle on the present, we first need to understand the field that's dedicated to studying past conflicts. And that, of course, is military history. It's all about learning from what has come before.
Now, this isn't just about memorizing who won what battle and on what date. No. Military history is really the study of how armed conflict has shaped, well, everything. Our societies, our cultures, our economies, the whole 9 yards. It's about digging deep to find those underlying forces that actually drive conflict.
You know, historians in this field, they look at everything, from why wars even start in the first place, all the way down to the specific tactics and technology used on the battlefield. And the whole point, right? The goal is always to spot the patterns and learn from the past, hoping we don't make the same mistakes all over again.
And that search for patterns, it takes us way, way back. We're talking nearly 2,500 years to one of the very first military historians, a guy whose observations about one single war are, believe it or not, more relevant today than ever.
Meet Thucydides. He was an Athenian general, so he lived through the absolutely devastating Peloponnesian War. But he wasn't just, writing down what happened. No, he was this sharp analyst, trying to figure out the real, underlying reason for this brutal conflict between the two superpowers of his day, Athens and Sparta.
So what did he see? Well, he saw this really dangerous dynamic taking shape. On one side, you had Sparta, the established, dominant land power in Greece. And on the other, you had Athens, this up-and-coming sea power, just exploding with new wealth and confidence. As Athens got stronger and demanded a bigger say, Thucydides famously wrote that it was the rise of Athens and the fear that this instilled in Sparta that made war inevitable. And this observation he made, this specific dangerous dynamic between a rising power and a ruling power, well, it wasn't just left in the history books. It's actually been formalized into a modern theory of geopolitics, a concept that experts use right now to analyze tensions between nations. So this right here, this is the Thucydides Trap. And what's really crucial to get is that this isn't about good guys and bad guys. It's about the intense structural stress that gets created when there's a really rapid shift in the balance of power. So let's break down exactly how this thing works. Okay, so the trap really has two key parts that feed off each other. First, you've got the rising power. It's feeling its strength, and it starts to demand more respect, more influence. It kind of feels like its time has come, Then you've got the ruling power. It sees this newcomer as a direct threat. It gets scared of losing its top spot and becomes dead set on defending the way things are, often with a lot of hostility.
But you might be thinking, okay, Athens and Sparta, that was a long time ago. Was that just a one-off thing, a unique moment in history, or is this a pattern that keeps repeating? Well, let's take a look at the data.
Researchers at Harvard's Belfer Center for Science and International Affairs decided to put Thucydides' theory to a serious test. They went back and found 16 cases over the last 500 years where a fast-rising power came head-to-head with an established ruling one.
And the results? Whoa. In 12 of those 16 cases, the outcome was war. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. That's a 75% chance of conflict. It suggests that these pressures, this dynamic, are incredibly powerful and really, really hard to overcome peacefully.
And you don't have to look far to see examples of this. Just think about the lead up to World War I. You had Germany, whose economy and navy were growing at an absolutely explosive rate. And then you had Great Britain, the dominant global empire, which saw Germany as a threat to its very existence. Even with family ties between their rulers, that structural pressure of a rising Germany and a fearful Britain helped set the stage for a global catastrophe.
And all of this, of course, brings us right to our own time, to the single most watched geopolitical relationship of the 21st century. It's a dynamic that a lot of top analysts are looking at through the exact lens of this very trap.
And here it is, the modern parallel, laid out right in front of us. On one side, you have the United States, the established global power since the end of World War II. On the other, you've got China, with its historic economic and military growth. From China's perspective, its rightful rise is being contained. From the U.S. perspective, its global leadership is being challenged. It is the classic pattern Thucydides saw thousands of years ago.
And look, make no mistake, this is not some dusty old theory that only professors talk about. This is a real, boots-on-the-ground concern for people at the highest levels of power. As the former top U.S. General Martin Dempsey put it back in 2012, his primary task was making sure the U.S. didn't fall into his exact trap.
So knowing the trap exists is one thing, but can we actually avoid it? That's the big question. And what's really fascinating is that Thucydides himself pointed out another layer of danger, one that makes it even harder to escape.
Yeah, his analysis reveals what you might call a second trap. He basically warned that neither Sparta nor Athens actually wanted a full-blown war, but they got dragged into one by their smaller allies, who kicked off a local conflict and then managed to convince their powerful patrons that war was the only option, forcing their hands.
And that leaves us with the billion-dollar question for our time, doesn't it? Does just knowing about this historical pattern, this powerful, repeating cycle of fear and ambition, does that give us the wisdom we need to break it? Or are we, despite everything we know about the past, doomed to repeat it anyway?